Hello and welcome to another episode of AI Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Today, we're going to talk about what RAM you may want to consider for machine learning workloads, and specifically what you should look for and what is not as important. So this video is going to be for people who are really looking to build their own workstations for machine learning workloads. So I think a great kind of demographic that I'm targeting are people looking to do Kaggle competitions. So these are people who don't want to be paying a huge cloud bill every month to a company like Amazon or Google, but also want to be able to do some pretty respectable machine learning in the comfort of their own homes. So let's get into talking about RAM when it comes to machine learning. What's important, what's not important? There's pretty much three main components that you're going to see when RAM gets advertised. That is the speed of the RAM, the size of the RAM, as well as the number of channels or how many RAM sticks you'll be getting. So an example of that is, say you want to get 64 gigabytes total of RAM. Is that going to be split into four 16 gigabyte sticks, or is it going to be two 32 gigabyte sticks? And the number of channels, turns out, there's a video put out by Linus Tech Tips that you can check out. I'll link that in the description. RAM speed does not really make that much of a difference in terms of performance. They kind of claim that it's mostly a marketing gimmick and that it's not going to really increase the performance of your rig at all. And I think it's a big misconception, potentially. People really latch on to the concept of, I need faster RAM for my computer. And I think the same is potentially true for machine learning workstations. I know up until I kind of dived into the actual hardware with some intensity, I thought faster RAM would correlate more with machine learning performance, but it turns out there's not a whole lot of correlation there, so you might as well save your money when it comes to that front. However, RAM size has a very real impact on machine learning. And RAM size is the one case I'd say is really important to take a look at, depending on where you want to stand in Kaggle competitions. So if you have, say, 16 gigabytes of RAM, you're only going to be able to fit that size of a batch of your data, in your rig at once to kind of work with. Whereas I've seen people with rigs up to 128 gigabytes. I'm sure there's crazier rigs out there too. But you're going to be able to read in most likely your entire data set at once and work with it, instead of having to do kind of clever things to kind of work around the limitations of your RAM size. You're able to just get all that data in and train your model and spit out your predictions all in one go, rather than reading it in batches and doing some clever workaround solutions. So lots of RAM is going to make your life a lot easier, especially for Kaggle competitions and machine learning in general. However, be careful. It can lead to some laziness and bad practices as well. I know I've definitely been guilty of that with my rig. You kind of get in this mindset of thinking, RAM is limitless. I have zero limitations on RAM. Let's just read this whole thing and, perhaps even do some, be too lazy to rework some inefficiencies in the code, that type of thing. So be careful that you don't get lazy and, with this huge amount of RAM that you potentially may be getting, think of it as it's the storage for my training data. Everything else should be as efficient as possible. I like thinking of it as try to make things as close to production quality as possible. It's one of the many things I get out of a Kaggle competition is kind of learning some best practices along the way. So one of the last features of RAM that you'll see advertised is the number of channels. A lot of people will think this makes a huge difference, and it turns out this is another one of those factors that is not going to play a massive role in your machine learning performance. There's likely some correlation, some improvement to be made there, but don't let that be kind of like your make or break scenario with what RAM to get. that being said, I would say it makes for some cool bragging rights if you can say you have quad channel memory versus dual channel memory. But that's up to you. So boiling all this down, the main factor to look for when you're trying to buy RAM is going to be the size of your RAM. How much of your training data are you going to be able to hold in your system at once? Since there's a lot of different RAM manufacturers and we care mostly about RAM size, you can find a lot of different alternatives. Getting, say, 64 gigabytes of RAM, there's numerous companies that are going to be selling you that at around the same price. So another factor I'd consider too is picking a reputable brand that makes this RAM. And I think Corsair has been in the game long enough. I've heard many good things about them over the last 15 years or so that I've been building computers and toying around with this type of stuff. I've heard enough about Corsair and how they've been in the game a while. I think they're pretty reputable. I would recommend going with, if not Corsair, a company quite like them with that type of reputation. So I guess my recommendation for if you're building a machine learning battle station is 64 gigabytes, and this is going to be 2 sticks of 32 gigabyte RAM coming from Corsair. So the Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro RAM. And the reason I went for dual channel RAM is down the line, of course, you're going to want to probably be, if you're anything like me, you're going to want to be improving this, adding components. That'll give you an extra 2 slots to put in 2 more 32 gigabyte sticks of RAM, rather than have those 2 slots stuck at 16 gigabytes. If you got a 4 by 16 gigabyte configuration, and all of a sudden you want to be upgrading that more, you're kind of bottlenecking yourself there. So I put a link in the description to the Corsair Vengeance RAM. If you're at all interested, I'd say check that one out. Or like I said, if not the Corsair, go with another reputable brand. I would highly recommend the 64 gigabyte version of RAM. It's gonna give you more than enough memory to really tackle most of the Kaggle challenges that you'll see. Like always, if there's anything you want to discuss with your machine learning workstation, if you want to discuss your specific use case, what you're working on, that type of thing, feel free to reach out to me. I can't get enough of this stuff. I love talking about it. I'd be happy to offer my 2 cents and learn more about what you guys are working on. So I'm hoping to make this a whole series of components needed for machine learning battle stations. If you have an idea of one that you want to see me cover next, leave it in the comment section below. And otherwise, if you liked this video, give it a like. Consider subscribing to the channel. It'll really help out the YouTube AI when it comes to recommending me to other people. But thanks so much for watching, and have a great day. Have a good Thanksgiving. Bye.